The Dolphins' offense has gotten praise all year, but man, this defense has been balling out since Jalen Ramsey returned from meniscus surgery in Week 8. Miami was among the worst defensive teams in the league over 7 weeks. But since Ramsey came back, the Dolphins have the best scoring defense and have allowed the lowest total QBR in the NFL. Dan Orlovsky, Marcus Spears, Mina with us here. Marcus, what has impressed you most with this Miami team on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey has obviously been phenomenal, but I like the way they're getting after the passer now. And I thought that this was just a process that was going to take a second with Vic Fangio and his defense, and now it's starting to come to fruition. And Bradley Chubb is starting to show up with the big contract and the trade being worth it. I love Van Ginkel, a relentless pass rusher. The interior is big and stout as well. They're built well up front when you think about Miami when it comes to rushers and what they like to do. And y'all, Mina and Dio knows this. Vic Fangio don't want to blitz you all game. He don't want to have to commit a lot of guys to trying to get after the quarterback. He wants a 4-man rush to start to take effect. And it just reminds me of Denver when he had Surtain on the outside and he had Bradley Chubb coming off the edge with a lot of those guys. It was very reminiscent of that watching them play against Dallas where they didn't have to sacrifice on the back end in order to make plays and negative plays for Dallas's offense.
You know, Marcus, to your point, when I was watching this, I know it's a regular season game, but I was actually thinking about the contrast between what we saw against this very good Dallas offense versus the wild card performance with the previous defensive coordinator where they just kept sending the house and getting punished. What a contrast in defensive philosophy. Yeah, right. I mean, this is the Vic Fangio defense we all expected, that we talked up this entire offense. Like you said, get pressure with 4. They had a 43% pressure rate on Dak with a standard rush. Defend the run with light boxes. Tony Pollard averaging just 3.7 yards per carry running into light boxes. And then a lot of those pressures and sacks were also attributable to coverage, Dak holding on to the football. They were putting a roof on CeeDee Lamb, a lot of those split safety shells we associate with Fangio. It took a second. Some of that was injuries. Obviously, Ramsey wasn't in the mix until recently. Some of it, I also think, is the complexity of Fangio's defense. But it feels like right now, this defense is playing exactly as we hoped, just in time for a playoff run. And this team looks incredibly balanced as a result.
Dan, I want to go to you with the offense. Number 1 scoring offense in the league. Had 375 total yards in this game, but only got to the end zone once. What did you see? What did you like about Tua and this offense yesterday or Sunday?
Yeah, number 1, Mike McDaniel and Tua took the defensive line out of the game. I mean, Tua threw the ball. I mean, this is a number for you. I think like 2.2 seconds is what he averaged from catch to throw. That totally takes away the strength of the football team. I thought he played incredibly fast. And then when it came to the decision making and how, if you watched this game, there were some clips where the second level of Dallas's defense, so like their backers and maybe some drop down safeties, would literally turn and run the opposite direction of the ball because they were so aware that they would try to hit those 15 or 20 yard throws that they were trying to run to spots. And Tua would just quickly get the ball out underneath. And I think that was a telltale sign. And also, 80% of their snaps on offense used motion. We've talked about them and that struggle for Dallas's defense. That's the most in like 6 years when it comes to how often offenses have ran it. And I look at it, and Phil, spinning it forward, Mina and Marcus, I look at it this weekend when they play Baltimore and I go, well, I knew Mike McDaniel was going to take away the strength of Dallas, their defensive line. I will be fascinated to see what he tries to minimize out of Baltimore. I don't know if they have a strength. I don't know if they have a weakness. I think they have just a complete aspect of their football team.
Yeah, both of these teams come off of this game, an immediate test next week. For Dallas, that's against Detroit. And earlier today, Jerry Jones was asked how he sees the Cowboys' chances in the postseason.
As far as us being in good shape to go into the playoffs and really make a wave, I feel very good about our chances to do that. And Dak is playing outstanding. I thought Dak played a heck of a game the other night. He had pressure all night long. I think Dak's the best he's been in his career. And I think if you can go into this part of your season in the NFL and your quarterback is playing at this level, you've got an outstanding chance to come home happy.
So some optimism from Jerry Jones. Marcus, you played for this team for 8 seasons. What is the Cowboys' biggest concern today?
Yeah, MK and DO, they my brothers and sisters, and they know if you can't run it, you can't win a Super Bowl. That's just what it boils down to for me. And there is no better example than 1st and 1 in the 4th quarter and you get sacked for an 8-yard loss by Nick Chubb and Van Ginkel. They are struggling to run the football. And Dallas and Dak, Dak did play, he was solid. But this team is at its best when they can hit chunk plays in the run game. And they just don't have that ability consistently enough, in my opinion. When you start looking at the NFC, you got Jahmyr Gibbs in Montgomery and Detroit. Obviously, we know what San Francisco is doing. Williams is running his butt off with the Rams. Why that resurgence is happening along with Matthew Stafford being to play the way he wants to. I think Dallas needs to really identify how they are going to manufacture yards on the ground between Tony Pollard and Rico Dowdle in order to be a real contender in the NFC. Because if not, and they think that they're going to drop back and throw the football and win a Super Bowl and try to beat the San Francisco 49ers or Philly in that regard or anybody, it's not going to happen.
Cowboys had 1 rush in this game, longer than 9 yards, and it was a Dak scramble for 22. It wasn't even scripted. Dallas loses back-to-back games for the first time since late in the 2021 season. But it's time now for our ESPN Bet Futures Spotlight. As it stands, the Cowboys do have 10-1 odds to win the Super Bowl, according to ESPN Bet. That's the 6th shortest in the league. And despite the home loss last night, the Niners still have the shortest odds to lift the Lombardi Trophy, followed immediately by the Ravens.